Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
To the public, folks. Whenever you're ready, Treasurer, we can have on to It's 1:30.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the December 3rd, 2024 meeting of the North Carolina Local Government Commission. And let me find my with that, I'll ask Cindy to call the roll to determine the quorum.
Good afternoon. I'm Cindy Aiken, Assistant General Counsel. We'll start with Auditor Holmes. Thank you. She is participating virtually, and instead of Secretary Marshall, we have designee Bill Toole.
Present.
Here in person. Secretary Penny. I see.
Present.
He's present virtually. Also, Mr. Burns.
Here.
He's in the room. Is Mr. Butler online? No. And Ms. Harvey's absent today. Correct. And Councilwoman Hoffman.
Present.
Thank you. Councilman Hoffman, also virtual. Mr. Philbeck.
Here.
Participating virtually. Treasurer Falwell.
Here.
Present in the room. We have a quorum. We have one unknown this time, Mr. Butler, and one other absent. Same housekeeping items as per usual. We always announce that our meeting proceedings are being recorded and will be made available to the public pursuant to the department's recording of public meetings policy. If everyone will please remember to identify yourself when you're speaking. If you're participating virtually, please try to mute yourself if you are not speaking. The meeting will continue in spite of any power or audio connection loss. Of course, that could be problematic, but just be aware that recording may be continuing if you are having conversations. Our agenda is posted on the website at www.nctreasurer.com at the Local Government Commission page. If we have any changes to the agenda, they will be announced by the chair during the meeting. We take votes by roll call, and if the members are without objection, your motion and seconds will be considered as yes votes unless you want to indicate otherwise during roll call. And just a reminder to those of us here in the Dogwood room, the ceiling microphones are extremely sensitive. And every month I tell myself to try not to rustle my papers around too much because it kind of is difficult to hear sometimes over that. And that concludes the housekeeping items.
Thank you, Cindy.
I'm sorry, I forgot. I also need to announce the attendance of our staff, Debbie Tomasco, Local Government Commission Secretary, Jennifer Wimmer, Director of Debt Management, Kendra Boyle, Director of Fiscal Management. Sorry, thank you.
Thank you. I'll now ask that you stand and join us for our Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll let William and Secretary Marshall Stead lead us in the salute to the North Carolina flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of North Carolina and pledge to the Old North State love, loyalty, and faith. Thank you all. In addition to those that have been announced, we have also Treasurer-elect Brad Briner here and State Auditor-elect Dave Bolick. And they were both at the Council of State meeting this morning where I introduced Treasurer-elect Briner, and Auditor Holmes introduced Auditor-elect Bolick. So that's all a mouthful since there's so many Council of State members that are leaving. They've got to keep it all straight. But we're glad to have you here. We're going to have a presentation in a few moments as I look out in the audience from North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. Members, you've seen the agenda, our conflict of interest statement. After reviewing the agenda, does anybody have a present, actual, or potential conflict of interest regarding matters that are before us? Hearing none. Should a conflict arise while we're in our proceedings, please be sure to let me as the chair know. Also, I have a very special guest. My wife Cynthia is here, joining me today for the last council state meeting as well as the local government commission meeting. And so, love you and glad you're here. So, often described her as the most beautiful 250-year-old woman you've ever met in your life, and the reason is she's a museum educator at Old Salem. So when she goes to work every day, she's dressed up in the period uniform of 250 years ago, but she's wearing normal clothes today. And the chief of staff, you want to rise and just...
Hey, Eric Nesbitt, Treasurer-elect Bronner.
Thank you. And we've been going through transition committees, and Treasurer-elect and I have been meeting, and the chief of staff, Eric's been meeting with Ted Brand, so glad to have you all here today. With that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes, November 12th.
So moved, Auditor Holmes.
Motion by Alder Holmes, second.
Second.
Motion second being made. Any further discussion? Without objection, anybody who makes a motion or second the motion will be considered a yes vote for efficiency purposes. Hearing no objection, a motion and second being made, the clerk will call the roll.
November 12 minutes, Holmes, Burns. Mr. Toole?
Aye.
Secretary Penny?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Butler? Councilman Hoffman?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Philbeck?
Aye.
Treasurer Falwell?
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries.
Next is attachment A. This is something that we've spoken about in the past, but I consider as an accountant that these unfunded health care and pension liabilities are both estimable and probable, so that accounting world says that means they're some type of liability. So attachment A talks about the applicants that are in front of us today in terms of their unfunded health care liabilities. And as you can see on this chart, with all the applicants that are in front of us today, even some with liabilities like Brunswick County of $150 million, no money's in the bank for that purpose. The two gold stars, maybe three, about who has dealt with this over the last many decades are number one, the city of Winston-Salem, who has over 100% of their liability funded because of decisions they made decades ago. And then I believe Mayor Vinroot and city councils during his period, and then Mayor McCrory, and then city councils during all those periods, and even the current city council of Charlotte also have a lot toward their liabilities. So, and I believe just over the last couple of years, either city of Raleigh or Wake County have started putting money toward their liabilities. So they're not in front of us today, but just wanted to let you know the importance of this OPEB report because these bills will be coming due. Given that, we're now to turn the chair over for the consent agenda and turning it over to Jennifer, attachment B.
Good afternoon. The debt items up for approval and presentation today on the consent agenda go from Brunswick County, which is their revenue refunding bonds, all the way through the miscellaneous action items of the City of Wilson's state revolving fund led service line inventory. If there are any questions, I would be happy to take them, or if anything needs to be pulled.
Does anybody need to recuse from anything that's on the consent agenda? I should ask that to start with. Okay. Hearing none, does anybody have any questions regarding the consent agenda? Okay. With that, staff's recommendation is to, okay. Staff's recommendation is to support attachment B, the consent agenda, with the items that Jennifer's just mentioned from Brunswick County through the city of Wilson. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Burns made the motion, and Mr. Philbeck seconded it, and we'll get to you next, Secretary Penny. With that, we have a motion second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, then the clerk will call the roll.
Once again, the consent agenda, starting with Brunswick County, going through the City of Wilson item. Burns, Philbeck, Auditor Holmes.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Toole.
Aye.
You, Secretary Penny.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilman Hoffman.
She's frozen on my end.
Councilman Hoffman, can you hear us? Come back. Treasurer Follow.
She's frozen.
Yeah. Her connection.
I mean, I hope she's frozen.
Call it the connection.
You know what I mean.
Connection.
That's a great pose, by the way. Anyway, we'll come back and give, without objection, we'll come back and give Council.
I think she's back.
Okay.
Are you back, Councilwoman Hoffman?
Mine was an aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. That motion carries.
And on the line, we had the Town of Duck, virtual, Drew Havens, thank you for joining us. And Amy, are you still with us, Town of Wilson? Is Amy Stanton, Town of Wilson CFO, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Anyway, we just gone through the consent agenda. A lot of things are happening in Wilson. If you ever decide to surplus that little chandelier that's in your office down there, do surplus property, let me know, okay?
Yes, sir.
Your city manager will know the history behind that little light fixture. So, good luck to you on that.
Thank you.
Okay, congratulations to you all. We're now to the attachment C, and I turn the meeting over to Debbie.
Thank you, Treasurer. We have a resolution for your
Can I
consideration.
stop?
Absolutely.
Ray Gronberg of Business NC asked about this on our Ask Me Anything call this morning. So make sure that whatever we talk about when it comes to the town of Speed, that and whatever information we have in this meeting, that we get that. So Frank's going to take care of that.
Yep. A little bit of background too, just at the last meeting went a little bit long. I wanted to touch base briefly on the status of outstanding audits and also with the association here. It's a good topic for them potentially to address, but we're also working towards a new year of audit submissions. Audits were due October 31st. And so come springtime again, we'll be looking at sending out more notices of noncompliance if audits aren't in by April 1st. So I wanted to give you a little bit of status on where we are with the 23 audits. Back on April 1st of this year, the LGC issued 135 notices of noncompliance to counties and municipalities that had not yet submitted their 23 annual audit. As of, I pulled these stats for the November meeting, so they're slightly dated, but as of November 9th, 85 of those 135 counties and municipalities had submitted their audits, which leaves us as of November 9th with 50 audits still outstanding from counties.
Sorry, I need to call somebody out of order for having what's going on in the audience. Oh, I'm sorry, miss. I've never got to do that.
I have a feeling you're never going to get to do that again.
Come down to
Let's see. Well, let's see where we're at.
I bet you were the one who called her.
That was an alarm.
So as of November 9th, we still had 50 counties and municipalities that had not submitted their fiscal year 23 audit. And again, fiscal year 24 audits were due on October 31st. Of those, we had 3 counties, and the remaining 29 were municipalities. So we're working with those units. We're also looking at the challenges. Obviously, we've heard a lot of the challenges that local governments are facing with audits, a lot of different factors leading to that, the complexity of the audits, the number of auditors available to do the work, number of items that staff is discussing and trying to find a good path forward that where we can provides flexibility and make some concessions for those challenges while still providing the oversight that I think the state, stakeholders, the markets, and others, that faith that they have in the oversight of the LGC and the processes we have. So we're definitely looking at those challenges and how we can face those together with our local governments and auditors and others. 5 of the units, the LGC did vote to take action on withholding a portion of sales tax. As mentioned last time, Lucama was able to catch up on a number of audits and didn't need to have sales tax withheld. 4 of their units are now having portions of their sales tax distributions withheld because of their late audits. Very happy to report that I just got an email today that the town of Black Creek has found an auditor and should be under contract soon for their fiscal year 20 audit. Black Creek is the municipality most behind in their annual audit, so we're really happy to see the progress they're making. Again, after the meeting, Kendra and I went and visited all the local governments who are having sales tax withheld and made sure they understood the importance of that action and what it meant to the LGC and the General Assembly. So with regards to speed and the resolution you have before you today, speed continues to face challenges. Complying with the Local Government Budget and Fiscal Control Act, we unfortunately haven't received timely response to requests for information from them. They had challenges with adopting a budget timely, which led to some non-compliance with statutes. They had issues, they're having issues establishing and maintaining an accounting system to maintain their records. And again, we've had just some struggles in getting information we need and getting timely responses to staff requests for information. Because of that, staff is recommending that the LGC vote to require, essentially to exercise its authority to require the town to hire someone to help them get caught up. This is a provision of the Local Government Budget and Fiscal Control Act under General Statute 15925, and it allows the LGC to compel a local government to contract to assist the unit in complying with the requirements of statutes. So if this is adopted, we'll ask we'll provide a copy of this to the town and ask them to respond within 30 days and let us know that they've complied with this and have hired someone to help catch them up on their books and comply. We do note at the bottom that failure to comply with the provisions of the resolution could lead to the LGC assuming control and initiating dissolution of the town, other authority that the LGC has under statute. So if there's any questions on staff's recommendation or on speed, I'm happy to take those.
Yes, ma'am, Alder Holmes.
I'm just curious as to what we know about their budget in terms of their revenue. Because if we're forcing them to contract and hire a CPA firm to manage their accounting, do we know if they have the resources to do that, or are they choosing to be non-compliant? I'd love just a little bit more context.
Certainly, and Auditor Holmes, I had the same question before we made this recommendation. So I talked to our coach team member who's working with them, and she reviewed their budget and found that there would be funds available for them to hire someone. This wouldn't be a large contract, a large amount, but they definitely have the funds to do it. And quite honestly, that as a functioning municipality, they do have requirements under law that they have to fulfill, and this would help them to do so. So we did ask that Auditor Holmes, and I was assured that they would have some funds available to be able to contract.
Thank you.
Other questions? I can only see 3 of our members. If anybody else has another question, raise your hand. Would you mind giving the board just a brief description of what we have found when we have physically been there in terms of their seeing if there's an issue here, there's a problem about, the need for governance, the need for competency. Anything in particular you want to add?
No, I think as with all local governments, we're assisting them where we can, but providing the oversight where we're required to make sure they're complying with the law. And in this particular case, and I think members who voted at the time to withhold the portion of their sales tax distributions, I believe were similarly concerned with what they heard at the time, because although speed was only missing 2 years. I hate to say only missing 2 years of audits, but the reason that staff recommended withholding was because of their non-response at the time, over months of us trying to reach out. So our concern obviously rises when we have local governments that we can see are in non-compliance and are not responding to us. That definitely raises our concern level a little higher. So with what we've continued to see and the communications we've continued to attempt to make, the concern remains there. And that's why we believe this is a good next step to bring the attention to the town and to the need for them to get the resources they need to comply with the law.
But do they always answer the phone?
They don't have full-time staff.
Okay, but
So
they never answer the phone generally.
It's difficult to get hold of someone, but again, that's because they don't have full-time staff. So, but it is difficult.
They respond to emails similar
It's difficult to get a response.
on anything, generally speaking.
Generally speaking, I would say yes.
I just want what you reflected to me about what y'all have visualized and physically experienced. I just want to make sure the board knows that these steps aren't taken lightly. So.
Absolutely. And Treasurer, to that point, with anything we take like this or anything staff brings to the commission, we've made the effort. I actually have, I'm briefed frequently on the communications that are being made and what responses we're receiving. So we're confident that this is the appropriate next step for this town.
Okay. Seeing no other hands, I'll entertain a motion to accept staff's recommendation regarding the resolution.
So moved. Hoffman.
Thank you. And second?
I'll second. John Burns.
Burns, second. Thank you. Any further discussion? And my only question is, if this doesn't work, then what?
Staff will recommend assumption of control with the intention of initiating dissolution. We did recommend, Treasurer, at your direction, when sales tax, the vote was made to withhold sales tax, that we explain to them their ability to initiate dissolution of their charter under similar statute to the LGC's authority, and they said they chose not to. And they believe they could catch up. And I believe that over the next few months, we'll see whether they're able to catch up or not. But if in the next few months they're not able to, then I think after, as we near the end of the year. And the dissolution of charter, if it were to take place under the authority in 160A, either through the initiation by the town or through the LGC, the date is set at June 30th. It's not... It has to be set at June 30th, so if we initiated it, we'd have some time to do what we needed to enter into agreements for the continued provision of services and take care of other details, so.
And services involve?
Trash and lights, and then we'd have to address roads.
But the trash is through a
I believe there's
contract.
just a pass-through contract, yep.
And lights, few lights, same issues we
East
constantly deal with DOT stuff. Is that it?
That's it. And in that case, for members who were here with East Laurinburg, it's very similar. They offered the same services in East Laurinburg before the LGC voted to initiate dissolution of East Laurinburg.
We have a motion second on the table. No further discussion. If not, the clerk will call the roll.
This is the resolution regarding the town of Speed to enforce NC Gen Stat 159-25E, directing the town to obtain whatever assistance they need to fulfill the duties of the finance office. Hoffman Burns, Auditor Holmes,
Aye.
sorry, I wasn't looking what you, oh, she said aye. Aye, thank you. Mr. Toole,
Aye.
Secretary Penny,
Aye.
Mr. Philbeck,
Aye.
Treasurer Falwell,
Aye.
still 2 absent, so that motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you all. Before we go to attachment D, which is our presentation by the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, I want to tell you that there are other cities that are not on the agenda today where our staff has been spending an inordinate amount of time. We're concerned about that have made the news. One is Pilot Mountain, North Carolina, right above Winston-Salem. And Chocowinity possibly is. There's some other things popping up around the state, especially with some of our cities that LGC board members will need to be keenly aware of and paying attention to as we calendar for the new year. With that, I'd like to invite Mr. President Kevin Leonard, our Executive Director, and his team. If you'll just pop another chair up there. Yes. Frank, thank you for sending that to Ray. You want this?
He has it electronically. He has it.
Ray does, Robert?
Frank
Oh,
does.
okay. Send that to Ray. Oh. Welcome. Kevin and I worked together for nearly 20 years, and he would not find it rude for me to say what we don't need is a blind glimpse of the obvious, because he's heard me say that to him. We've said that to each other before as we work together, but just not talk about things that we can see on this piece of paper, but what you really see happening with at the county commission level as far as counties that may be in trouble, and you can introduce your staff.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Mr. Treasurer and Auditor Holmes, members of the commission, thank you so much for the opportunity, and LGC staff, thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you today. It's good to see all of y'all, friends around the table. Bittersweet day to be here. As you mentioned, Treasurer Falwell and Auditor Holmes, we've been friends for quite some time, and I want to thank you for your public service and your public service careers, all that you've done for this state. And so thank you on behalf of the association and the counties and your friendship. At the same time, Treasurer-elect and Auditor-elect, so nice to see y'all, and great to be here on this day at a moment of transition. And what an honor it is for the counties to be able to be here at this moment. So we appreciate that, and to tell the story and to veer from the page, which we only brought one page. I hope y'all are okay with that.
Been to that barbecue before, though.
Yeah, so
Only one page.
it's only one page, so we've got a lot of other places to explore. Joined with me today are my colleagues, Jason King, who is the Director of Strategic Member Services, which I have a little storytelling to do on that front with y'all, and Eric Mendez, who is a Strategic Project Coordinator in Strategic Member Services, who also has his own story to tell. Mr. Treasurer, I think the job before us today, if I understand it correctly, so point me in another direction if I'm wrong, was to brief the commission on the use of our ARPA funding, and in general tell you about where we think the state of counties is, where it's heading, as it relates to finance. Before I jump, and I'm going to give you the origin story of Strategic Member Services. Jason's going to dive into that chart for you and really tell you about what that means on that chart, the people's names and what they're doing. Eric's going to tell you about his personal story, how he got here, what he's doing, where he's heading, where we hope he's heading. And then I'll spend some time talking to you all about the challenges, I think, that we're facing and how we need to be working on that together. I very much view our partnership as a partnership, working together. I guess we'll test that today. Hopefully you see it that way. But our teams that we've established throughout the years, I think, have a great working relationship with the LGC. And we intend it to stay that way and to make it even stronger. Just a side note, there are 50-ish of me's across the country, running county associations. And when I go to those meetings with my peers, and I talk about the LGC, they're like, an LG what? I just think it's really important to note how unique this body is in the whole country, in North Carolina, and how lucky we are to have it. The two associations, the league and the association, the school of government, as well as the LGC. Without those strong partnerships, North Carolina wouldn't be as strong as it is. And it's easy for us to focus on, we've got a lot of work to do out there. But when you zoom out a little farther, it's important to understand how lucky we are to have the safeguards in place and how well we're doing. So I just want to bring that perspective as we launch into this. So the one page I have before you. This all happened because of a conversation that took place about 3 years ago in this very room. It was around December, January. I think many of y'all sitting around this table were in this meeting. And I've recounted this story many times to legislators, to our own members, about the treasurer and the auditor at the time sitting here saying, what are y'all doing to help your counties who are on the UAL list? There are a lot of units of government that are really struggling out there. And why aren't y'all doing more to help them? And, sitting there hearing that, I'm like, we're really trying. We are trying to do more. It's kind of tough out there. March rolls around, so that was 2020, 2021. March rolls around, and all of a sudden our counties and our cities are going to receive collectively over $3 billion-ish in ARPA funds. And that was sort of a wake-up call, we were struggling before. Now we're going to get a whole bunch of federal dollars. And how are those counties, in our case, who are already struggling a bit, going to tackle and handle receiving all of this extra funding and the compliance work that comes along with it, especially with federal compliance guidelines, Treasury guidelines. So the first phone call I made two phone calls. First phone call I made was to the auditor, and the second one was to the treasurer. And I said, we've got to do something to help. And then calls to the governor's office, calls to the General Assembly. And that turned into an investment of funding that, again, no other association in the entire country received, of $10 million to the NCACC, $10 million to the league, and $10 million to the Cox to really provide technical assistance to our counties, pointed at the ARPA funding. We have been doing that to all 100 counties in the state of North Carolina for the past three plus years. And we've done it in the form of just, talking their ear off about here's what it means on your compliance standards and your compliance work. Lots of Zoom calls, lots of one-on-one guidance calls, questions, even working directly with Treasury to figure out, what do you mean by this? And could we tweak that, especially in the broadband world? Because North Carolina statutory laws related to broadband and counties and cities is different. And so we needed to advocate to help tease that out with Treasury to fix some things. And we were very successful in doing that work. So that's 100 counties. But But we also knew that there are counties on the UAL list that probably need a little extra help. Of our 100, there are some that are doing just fine, have capacity, they're doing fine. But there are others that need increased capacity and extra helping hand in their office to run a project, to talk about the compliance and do that sort of thing. And so the UAL list provides us an opportunity to focus on some of those counties and try to help them get off of that UAL list, or at least catch up and feel a little bit better where they're swimming rather than drowning. And so part of the thought process was that as well. I'm going to paint a pretty broad picture of this map in front of you, and then Jason's going to get you into the details. But here was the theory. The theory was to create a program that sort of has two distinct objectives. The first one is hire really smart people with expertise that can help our counties. So your green, your yellowish, it's that middle yellow, finance ops TA. That's what I'm looking at. And then outreach. I call that our group of experts. Think about them being back at headquarters and you got a red phone and they answer the red phone when there's a question. So on that list, the experts, and some of those experts weren't experts in ARPA because ARPA didn't exist. So they became the experts in ARPA. And again, I won't steal Jason's thunder too much here. He can explain the functionality and the expertise of these people. But expert group of people. But then we also needed the SMS cohort on the other side of this chart. Eric's of the world. Eric recently graduated with an MPA. It's been not recent anymore, but recently graduated MPAs who we know want to go into local government. This is what they want to do. They want to help by working in local government. They're public service minded. So we hire them as the association team member, and then they work in a county, in the county manager's office or in the finance office, and they're helping to run the projects, they're helping to fill out the compliance work, and they're helping to, help the county. At the same time, they're gaining real world experience. And then their job, as I've always told them, is to get a job. They shouldn't stick around too long at the association because we're trying to also build workforce capacity in our counties, because that's another big challenge that we're facing across the state. So we're doing our part through this program to help build the next generation of leader in the county, whether it be finance officer, assistant county manager, budget analyst, and being trained at the same time. So Eric's out in the county, in the state, and he can pick up the phone, that red phone I mentioned, and he can call back to the expert team and say, I've got a real doozy for you here. Man, this one's complicated. I've never seen it before. And they'll say, well, we have, because we've been around the horn a couple of times. So that's how it's supposed to work. I'm happy to report that I think it is working. And we have some success stories. So Jason, you want to take it from here?
Yeah, happy to, and appreciate the setup, Kevin. And I realize the chart, it's just a simple chart, but I think it is kind of a good way to just kind of walk through the ways that we've built out services using these ARPA grant funds and really kind of put them to work for counties in a direct way that, as an association, I don't think that we've really ever done before. So we really appreciate the trust that the state has in the association to put these funds to use in the best way that we can. So Kevin talked a little bit about this in the green. You see the ARPA technical assistance. This is really the reason that we received the funds in the first place. But really to help counties with their strategies to expend those federal grant dollars, whether they come from the feds directly or they come through a grant from the state. In the blue, there's outreach team members. So these are former county managers who still want to give back. They still have public service in their heart. They just don't want to serve full time anymore. And so we want to make sure we're able to provide them with an avenue to help share with current county managers what they've learned over the years. The financial operations technical assistants, these are former county finance officers who really at a high level want to help different county finance offices get to a good place and then stay there And then Kevin also talked a little bit about the capacity support that we provide through our strategic project coordinator cohort, with the intent of making sure those folks have a good start to their career in county government. We don't just call it member services. Of course, there's a strategic part in front of that. And I think that one thing I really wanted to emphasize to this group is that we've started a little bit of a different model with the way that we've structured the program, and that's that level of support that they have. So in order to really kind of get them going on a really positive career track, it's really the model is meant to surround them with different levels of support, whether it's the experienced folks that have served a career in county government and those professional supports that way, or whether it's the peer support team, and they come in as a cohort of individuals and they're able to kind of grow together, form a relationship that we feel like can really carry through their careers, so that they've got folks in different counties that they can always call upon as they're dealing with different issues. So I did want to just mention a few highlights from the work that we've done over the past couple of years on the ARPA technical assistance front. Of course, we're coming up on the December 31st obligation deadline. And so that team right now is really focused on, they've been really heavily engaged on helping counties to ensure that they have their funds obligated and that they're in compliance with the federal regulations. And that work really extends right now outside of the people that you see in that particular line. We bring in individuals from the financial operations technical assistance team too, because those funds are on the compliance side really intertwined there in the finance office. And often strategic project coordinators are involved in those as well. Over the past 5 months, I wanted to share that team has engaged 32 counties with what we call ARPA wellness checks. So that's really start with an hour of time between a county and a team at the association to really start digging into what they have invested their funds in, make sure that the full pot of monies that they receive from the Treasury has been obligated and indeed that they are in compliance. And so there's a checklist they walk through with the county and make sure that everything's looking good. And then we can dive in through future meetings with those counties if there are strategies that we need to help them get into in that front and make sure that they're all in compliance. So it's heavy work on that side right now.
As we see news reports from around the state of school systems getting in trouble because they spent ARPA money for one-time purposes, and now they're upside down and they're blaming it all on everyone but themselves. When you do these wellness checks, are you exposing any of that, catching any of that, preempting any of that? Or do you think that's accurate?
I'd say from what our team has seen, that's really a kind of a rare case where a county, I can't speak to the school system, but maybe a county has looked at supplementing some of those funds in a way. And it's really just flagging, making sure the county has a good strategy going forward so that they're not in a hole once they get to the end of their funds.
I can, if I may chime in.
I think you know what I'm talking about.
I do. So, well, I believe I do. ESSER funds, primarily targeted at schools, went directly to schools. And they were cautioned many times by many people, including counties, to not use ESSER funds for ongoing operating expense. And so what we're talking about largely is a political issue now that it's resting on the shoulders of the counties in the sense of like, are you going to backfill for those operational expenditures? And so that's where it becomes more of a political question at the county level. Are they going to do it? And of course, those politics are strong because it involves education. However, they're having to be creative in backfilling if they choose to do so, at moving other funds around to do it. But to Jason's point, I don't think that it really hits on the wellness check side of things because it's not targeted at those types of dollars. It's going to end up in the general fund reporting eventually. And that's just the decision making that a county is going to have to face related to balancing its budget.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. I want to shift over to the blue and our outreach team. Some of the primary functions that this team has and has always had when we were operating on a more streamlined level with that team is really kind of, I think, placements with interim managers when there's an opening in the manager's office, and then helping them recruit county managers and helping them through that process when they do indeed have an opening. They help with strategic planning and budget retreats for boards, and we conduct probably a dozen of those every year. I think one of the things that we've really expanded with this team since we've realized the ARPA grant are like peer reviews and operational assessments. There's real value, I think, counties see in getting in a fresh set of eyes to their operations. And this is a process that we really started with another member of our association team, David Baker, formerly with Department of Revenue. That's specific to tax offices. It's a peer review. There's a peer review process where he brings in tax administrators from different counties to go into a certain county, take a look at their operations, and then provide the county with a report on ways that they can consider doing things more efficiently, or just it can be even safety things that they have in their offices. We also do just higher level assessments for different offices, including in finance offices and budget offices. And those can be led by our financial operations team in conjunction with one of our outreach coordinators. NC Pro, Pandemic Recovery Office, is our grant oversight agency. One of the things that we provide to them on a quarterly basis are key performance indicators. And so the number of peer reviews and operational assessments are one of those things that we do provide to NC Pro. And all that data is publicly available on NC Pro's website and their data dashboard. I wanted to skip over now to the finance that's in the goldish yellow color. And so I mentioned these are former county finance officers that are out and about in our counties. I think that, as Kevin has spoken to and will continue to speak to today, there's a level of expertise and staffing that's required to, I don't need to tell you all this, that's required to effectively manage county government financial operations today. It's a lot harder than it used to be. And I think that's, they're contributing reasons why counties have, whether they ended up on a UAL or feel like they may be in a way where they are moving in that direction.
You know, of the 100 counties, how many vacancies there are at county manager level?
In a county manager's office? I think
No, county manager themselves.
Yeah, I think there are probably 8 or so right now.
And would you say that the CFO of the county is the vacancy of the CFO themselves, is that higher than 8?
Not sure about that one. I can find out. Kevin, that might be in that.
I think I have that answer for you.
I did want to just kind of share a little bit about the work that our small but mighty team does for the counties that we've been serving here. So one particular success story that I think can outline the power that this team has is in Anson County. As you know, that county was, when we started assisting there through Amy Cannon, who's one of our outreach associates, and then Jonna Sharp, who we work with as a consultant. We started assisting them in late 2022, I believe. The county has a newer finance director, newer in terms of experience in county government. And so we felt like, we could provide her with kind of a good coach as she grows into that role. So that county now has gone from being 2 fiscal years behind on their audits to being in compliance with the October 31st deadline now. And that's mostly due, of course, to, the work that from the finance office and the county. But we felt like we've been able to go in and really provide them with mentorship and coaching to help them get there. And we can do it in a way that's one-on-one. We send people into the office. They're there with them, helping them walk through not just how to do something in their finance system, but also why it should be done that way. And while the number of counties that we're serving through this team right now seems kind of smaller, it's really the work itself seems to be pretty time intensive. But there's kind of goes along with the old adage is you're teaching them to fish, not just giving them the fish. And so that part of it is really intensive, and making sure that when the county is caught up on its audits and we exit the county, that they're in a much better place in terms of their understanding of the functions and the full breadth of what they need in county finance.
How many are on the UAL list now? Counties?
I believe it went from 12 to 17. Is that the right number? Look around the table, you might know better than I, but I think that's the most recent number.
14.
14.
It's at 14?
And the largest would be probably?
I don't know the answer to that, population-wise. You'd have to take a look at the list.
All right.
But we're at 14.
Might be Martin.
Martin.
Not sure which one's bigger.
All right, thanks. Okay. But at one point it was 8. UAL list, I thought. So, okay.
I would call it it's kind of like a big ship to turn. It's taken a while for counties to get in the state, and in the state, some of the counties that the state that they're in now, it's taken a while to get there, and it takes a while to turn the ship. And that all starts to me, it all starts with having a good qualified staff and an adequate staff in the finance office and a trained staff that's supported.
The numbers doubled. The number of folks on the UAL have doubled, right?
I believe so. Doubled.
Anyway,
Little less than double.
where do you think the treasurer-elect, when they ask that question 2 years from now, where do you think he'll be?
Less than where we are now.
Okay.
All right. I want to talk a little bit about
I just get concerned about tailwind. We've had some economic tailwind, we've had some headwind, but we've also had some tailwind.
Yeah.
Especially with this money, and I'm just would think that the number will be going down, not up.
I would hope so too. I do have, if I may speak to that when I talk about challenges. I'd like
Okay.
to.
Thank you.
we want to add we've in 3 different counties we've helped them get caught up on 6 total past due audits. I don't have a finance background. I was a little surprised at how long I felt like it can take once we get into a county and really start helping, and the sheer number of I think amount of work that it can take to really help them get caught up on that audit once they get behind and they start kind of falling further and further behind for whatever the reason is. It takes an inordinate amount of work, I think, to get them caught up on it. And I don't think I realized fully how much work that really was.
Is there 1 or 2 vendors that dominate the software regarding the finances of counties?
Well, I know of one, I believe, Tyler Technologies and Munis, that's probably what 70% of the county market would be my guess.
And how many, 70?
I want to say it's low 70.
And when we say for counties, we're always saying for school systems also, or generally?
I'm just speaking to the county
Yeah,
government.
but are they generally, we've had issues with the Tyler Technologies not making pension contributions because of being 6 months behind in software stuff. Had a Gaston County school system. If my memory's right.
I can't speak to the school systems. I really don't have a window into that.
It's not the same software. Same vendor.
Same vendor.
Okay.
Okay. All right, I want to mention our strategic project coordinator cohort. Kevin talked a little about this. This is just, to me, it's a really exciting part of our program because we get to help build future county leaders. So we recruit from master's level programs, individuals that are drawn to public service. We work to really help them understand that county service is probably the place that they need to be to further their careers. We've served 28 counties through this program. We've had 15 total coordinators in it. 6 of those coordinators are currently in the program. One's with NCACC in a different position, assisting with the ARPA technical assistance. We had 2 that decided to pursue additional higher education. And then those names that you see kind of at the bottom of that orange pipeline there, those are those that have successfully transitioned into the local government full-time employment. And so that's really what we're going for with the program, is to really kind of get them off into a really good start in county government, and then get them hired away from us by county governments. We've had one town that picked off a couple, and we continue to work to make sure that
We'll get them back.
pulled back into county government. So we continue to bring those folks in for our kind of regular trainings, and then peer support and professional support pieces. So I think it's probably a good time to transition over to Eric. We wanted Eric to be able to share with you a little bit about what it is that he does as a strategic project coordinator for counties, and share a little bit about his experience in the program.
Yeah, well, thank you, Jason. And just wanted to take a moment to say good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be here. Good to meet everyone. It wasn't but 2 years ago that I was in this very same building getting to meet Mr. Dale Falwell himself. So it's good to be back here. My name's Eric Mendez. I'm a strategic project coordinator. I've been with the association for 2 years now. Originally, I'm from Macon County, but I recently made the move over to Wilson County. So massive difference. Still getting used to the flatlands here, but well, we're adjusting. But part of the reason why I was so attracted to apply to this position coming out of graduate school was that this was really a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be able to work with once-in-a-lifetime funding that I will never see in my life again, through the American Rescue Plan Act, and then both the national opioid settlement funding that's coming into the state. But apart from that, I was also very attracted to the idea of me graduating as a first-generation college graduate, not really familiar with all that of county government, being able to have the opportunity through this program to really cut my teeth with county government, being able to really get that experience, that level of experience that you just can't get from a textbook. And so I've been able to really dig in as soon as I got to the association, being able to provide direct assistance, technical assistance to the western part of the state through counties such as Henderson, Graham, so forth, and then moving on to the current county placement that I'm at in Nash County. With Henderson County, I was very fortunate enough to be able to take lead on a project of being able to create the first adult recovery court program in Henderson County utilizing opioid settlement funding. It's up and running today, very proud of that. And it was a lot of work, but a big part of what was able to make that project successful is the networking that we had in the association, being able to connect with whoever I needed to and have these complicated technical questions answered. I wasn't going into this alone. I knew that I had that support system behind me. But apart from that, being able to provide direct assistance to counties as far as policy review and adoption for the American Rescue Plan Act requirements, drafting spending authorization resolutions, and being able to be a part of the RFA process for American Rescue Plan Act specific funded projects. But apart from that, also being able to be an outreach and liaison. I had to be able to network and directly connect with the district attorneys of Western North Carolina to be able to help get this adult recovery court program off the ground and to be as successful as it is right now. But apart from that, being able to shift away from the American Rescue Plan Act specific funding and being able to get my hands on other types of projects. Right now in Nash County, I'm doing a lot more finance related work, being able to help create a digital budget book for Nash County with the intention of it being more transparent, more easy to access for residents, where they're able to go into this budget book, being able to see 2-3 years behind and compare those numbers to the current budget that we have now. We want full transparency when it comes to these numbers and being able to provide that information to our residents. Apart from that, being able to really just connect and network as much as possible. I was able to be fortunate enough to work alongside a lot of my cohort members that are no longer with the association, but even though they are outside and in their own individual counties or towns, we're able to still connect with each other. We have that network system and being able to create that support system with one another. We know that we're going into these counties with connections to one another, and if we have a problem that we need assistance with, we can call one another and support each other with it. But I'm happy to announce that as of recently, I'm working with Nash County to be able to help transition me into a full-time position with them. I found that through this line of work that finance was really my calling, good or bad. But I'm happy to announce that I'm looking into transitioning over into Nash County and hopefully being able to stay there long-term, and I can see myself growing roots in the area. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kevin Leonard.
Great. Thank you, Eric. I want to highlight something Jason brought into the program that we didn't initially contemplate when we were building it, and that was what I would call the nurturement of the cohort. And Eric, you referenced this, that you now have a network of colleagues who are going to be spread across the state. But while they're with us, what Jason is doing is basically created a curriculum for them on a monthly basis to have some level of training. Like, what's the LGC, right? What does the LGC do? So that when you get your job in Nash County, you'll know how important the LGC is and the communication back and forth and working with the LGC or the different aspects of state government or federal government. Other types of just training on like how to interact and how board dynamics work. So it's really, I think, a really neat program, and kudos to Jason for really envisioning how to wrap our arms around the cohort and launch them off into a public service, county government, or local government career. I'll transition now to talk about what's next. And I'll reference that this slide actually has a couple of different lines on it, but we took them off for this presentation because it didn't quite fit in terms of the funding stream of ARPA. But there's two other lines now on this verticals lines. One is opioid technical assistance. As Eric referenced, he was doing some work on opioid technical assistance. As this was coming into being, the opioid settlement happened as well. So another massive amount of funding coming in for 18 years into our counties to set up opioid treatment programs. It brings along with it its own reporting guidelines through the auditor's office. And special finance requirements. It has to have a special finance a category that it fits into in a restricted account as a part of the agreement. And so there's its own compliance work there. So we have another team that's funded through some state funding as well as some philanthropic organizations that wanted to invest in our association to do this type of work. That's the first time that that's ever happened to us, where people came to us and said, we'd love to give you some money if you can, work on this stuff, which we were already doing. That's great. We had to create a 501c3 to do that type of work. That'll come, I'm foreshadowing a little bit. And then disaster recovery. I think, for me, this is important to tell y'all that the General Assembly has valued our work in this space because they gave us additional funding to work on technical assistance for Helene recovery. And it was sort of a surprise to us, a good surprise. But it showed up in the budget in terms of funding to give to the association for technical assistance because we have the infrastructure in place to do it. I put that as a feather in the cap. That's a good acknowledgement of the work that we're doing in the space. So that's another line. With one person on it right now, Jason has an extra job now to do of filling out another line on that sheet with additional technical supports there.
Is that his happy face? I'm trying to figure that out.
I'm not sure.
Oh, there it is.
I haven't figured that out yet.
How much money is that?
2.5 million. And by the way, in terms of numbers, we're about halfway through the spend on the 10. So we're a little over halfway through.
And most of that's personnel?
Most all personnel. I would say all personnel.
That's associated travel.
Yeah, personnel associated travel. So the design of the programs, I report to a 50-member board. So in adopting this moving forward, talking to the board, I needed to create a program, or we needed to create a program that went up and then went down, right? So it's all personnel heavy. And so everybody in the program understands that if, where that money's coming from and when it ends. Great transition though. Our board has seen great value in the service that we are now providing. And I think as we've opened up, I was going to use an engine with a hood, motorcycles. If you're working on the engine, we started working on the engine. As we opened it up, we were like, oh, there's a lot to work on here. We need to tinker on this engine quite a bit. And there's a lot of need out there. A need beyond that $10 million. So in talking with the board about what's the future look like, here's a need that our counties have. And I kind of feel a responsibility as the leader of the organization to help on this. And so we're working to figure out ways to find either additional funding. Some of the members of my board are very vocal that we don't need to constantly go to the state to ask for more money for this. And I understand that and tend to agree. I think that if there was one more influx of dollars related to getting a system stood up, that we could support it internally somehow, whether it be through a 501c3 or other fundraising activities or beyond member dues, which they already pay, trying to sustain this additional member service, which I think, for me, pays huge dividends if we invest in making sure that the finances of the counties of the state of North Carolina are solid. That's going to be, that pays so many dividends longer term about good local government in the state of North Carolina. So a little bit about the money and sort of the next steps in terms of timeframes and how that's working. That's in flux at the moment. Oh, board action. They did take action to set aside some of our funding to support this effort a little longer term, either to match dollars with other dollars that we can leverage to prolong the services that we've outlined here today, or to strictly invested in it to just prolong a period, just to pay for it. So that's some of the stuff that's going on internally at the association on that.
Generally speaking, what's the association's budget?
It ranges from around 8 to 11 million. It's with the grants in, it's at that higher number.
How much is in reserve?
We have healthy reserves in our fund balance. I'm trying to think. Our most recent estimate's probably around 25 million in reserve.
When you jumping around,
Yep.
you talk about hiring these folks out of local government. You're on the pension system through the Elders, right?
Yes, sir.
Your employees are.
Yes, they are.
So how do you hire these folks who are retirees from the Elders system, generally speaking?
They're limited by they have to apply by the regular statutory authorization of limited hours.
Or they could suspend their retirement.
That's correct. We would sure love some flexibility on those statutes to allow them to come back with more hours if y'all would entertain that.
We can get you off the Eldridge system.
We would
Is that the
prefer not to
flexibility
do
you
that.
want?
No, it's a great tool to recruit people like Eric and then get Eric into the system so he wants to stay in it for the rest of his career, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Some associations are a little bit critical of y'all being on the system.
I've
so
heard that.
I just want to let you know that that's
Yeah.
not.
We are grateful for the opportunity to participate in the leader system.
And the opioid amount of money is set for 18 years.
Yeah, so I'm trying to remember the large number. I actually forget what it is now. It's over 100. I forgot.
Is it
the
all
number.
out of the oven? Are all the suits, or is some still?
Yeah, I think there's some minor suits still out there, but the largest ones are settled at this point.
You came to me several years ago about public school construction.
Yeah,
Nice little.
that presentation. It was more than one page.
Yeah, it was laminated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that.
So, and I mentioned to Treasurer-elect Bronner, when the lottery first passed in the state, 60% of the counties were getting 100% of the money for public school construction out of the lottery.
Okay.
60% of the counties were getting 100% of the money when the lottery first passed. First question is, I know I'm jumping around, but this is kind of important. That's been rectified, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And in addition, on that day, 40% of the lottery proceeds were supposed to go to public school construction, and the profit and the revenue of the lottery have doubled over projections, doubled. But the percentage got down as low as 16 or 17%. Was that accurate?
That's correct. It was at one point. It's back up to 40, and some estimates have it around 47%.
Okay. Then
So
but it was down as the lottery doubled, they cut the percentage in half.
Well, I could go deep on this if you want me to. So the percentage went down significantly during a recession because the assembly decided to take some of the lottery proceeds to fill some holes during a recession. We were obviously opposed to that, and it was supposedly one time. It turned into not be one time. That put us in the position of advocating for over a decade, and former Commissioner Burns may remember some of these days as well. That put us in the position of advocating strongly to get it back up to 40%. The research that I presented to you during that period of time, we went back and did research that showed that there was a state bond for school construction about every decade, and it back to the 20s, up until 2005 when the lottery passed. The lottery was supposed to be the answer because they were dedicating 40% of the proceeds to go to capital, but then took it back to fill some holes and never replaced it. So
Their percentage may be back up to what it was supposed to be, but they never replaced it.
that is correct.
And what about the 40% of the counties that weren't getting any of it for a period of years?
That is fixed now. All counties should be receiving some level of lottery funding for school capital.
They made whole for the years that they.
And I would say this, that I would have to do some.
They're low-income counties, I might.
I would have to do some additional research to demonstrate to the commission that there are special funds within the lottery now that are for low wealth or rural needs-based counties. So they could actually get increased dollars for school capital out of special funds. So within that 47%, there's actually there are multiple categories of different funding in there that you're eligible for.
Is your board taking a position on the constitutional amendment that says that lottery proceeds slated for public education should be spent on public education?
We have not. However, I will say at our legislative goals conference, what we just had in the November the 15th, our top priority goal was focused on educational spending. And I know you got me going on this one, sorry. But in that presentation that I showed you so many years ago, I was referencing a 1958 article that the association made a statement on education that we were lobbying in 1958 to increase operational funding for the state to increase operational funding so it would release the pressure off the counties to put more money in capital. And so I feel like we're back at a similar place again. Meanwhile, counties are putting in statewide over $3 billion into operational spending for education.
58 was a great year, so.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you off track. So
That's all right. That's all right.
These are things that just, I think it goes to the health of counties.
Agreed.
Talk about these large things like lottery proceeds, public school construction, all this stuff that our board deals with.
All of those are in balance to each. They're out of balance. It puts pressure on one or the other. The state and the county are partners in that way. Okay. So challenges. You referenced that at the beginning of our conversation, and you talked about the number of counties on the UAL. When we really dove into this and started working on it, especially that finance ops TA line there, and I told those folks and Jason, I was like, I would really like that number on the UAL for counties to be 0. We should get that number down to 0. Is that realistic? I don't know, but I really want to strive to get us down to 0. It's gone up, which concerns me. But I think it speaks to the challenges and the worries that I have. Like, these are the things that keep me up at night when I think about county finance. The workforce capacity thing we've discussed. So I won't go deep into it, but the answer to your question earlier is we have 6 current vacancies in CFOs across the state with 4 retirements likely coming soon. Who's coming up next? Do they have a bench in that county? We're trying to do our part, but that's a real slow investment work there to do. But we're doing our part to try to do that.
Speaking of those vacancies, not everybody's a great employee. There are people who have left one position as a county manager who end up in another position of county manager, and they really left a mess where they were before. What type of governance do you know it when you see it? You don't have to say it. You don't have to mention any names, but you know it when you see it. What type of governance is there to keep people who really should not be county managers from either being elevated or laterally transferred?
Well, I think that's a decision for a board to decide, what they need, who they need. And the board ultimately gets to make that decision. I think of it from the standpoint of what tools and systems do we have in place in North Carolina to help people succeed. And as I mentioned earlier, the School of Government, our association providing all that we can to help. But the City County Managers Association too, I think they are well situated to raise the standard for city and county managers there.
Part of success is not chasing somebody else's problem or adopting somebody else's problem.
So I will say that in the outreach part line there, those folks are really savvy at helping guide. But you've served in office for a long time, and that staff can help guide and put great options before a board, and then it's up to the board to make a decision.
Okay.
So the complexity of the work is really on my mind. I've mentioned opioid, that's new. It's new work. The ARPA funding, that compliance work, that's new. I mean, these are things 5 years ago that were not being handled in the finance office. So that's extra work. It's new work. It's complex work. It's not going away. I have a real bone to pick with Gatsby. I would love to.
I'll get him on the phone.
I would love for you to help us convince Gatsby to lessen the amount of new requirements that are constantly coming at local government. It feels to me like Gatsby seeks to make local government like business auditing, and that is not what local government auditing is. My counterparts and peers across the nation have talked to members of Gatsby, to the chair, and they say that they feel like they're doing okay and that they've got ties into local government and they're doing just fine. I would disagree with that. I don't think that they understand what they're doing to really put pressure on local governments, especially with all these other things going on, that those requirements are not being helpful to getting audits in on time.
To perpetuate their existence.
I would agree with your statement, Mr. Treasurer. So
In some cases.
that's my feeling on Gatsby. And then Helene, I have a real concern about our counties in the West. I'm grateful for the funding that the Assembly has given the association, and we're going to do everything we can to be as helpful as we can. But it's going to take a lot. You've got a lot of counties out there right on the ridge line and over on the state line who really need some assistance in terms of the capacity and then the complexity of the FEMA work that's coming in. That's really going to present some challenges. And I'm afraid in a couple of years, what's going to happen is all of these things that they're doing right now, FEMA's going to turn around and say, well, that's not reimbursable because of the paperwork was not filed correctly. And we're trying to be as proactive as we can in advising them on those fronts. So anyway, that's probably enough of the challenges and worries, but those are things that are on our minds as we're looking at those things.
We'll go around the horn and see if board members have any questions.
That would be great. I'd love to try to answer them.
Let's start virtually to see if any of our virtual board members have any questions based on the presentation, which may lead to some more answers. So. Okay. We'll go with those present, see if they have any particular questions about.
I just, as a former Wake County Commissioner, if you've got Jonna Sharp working with you, particularly to you, Eric, I would recommend you listen to her and learn from her as much as you can, because she has forgotten more about municipal and county finance than most people know. So, but I appreciate your presentation on the things that you're doing, and it's greatly needed, particularly for small counties, obviously. But how will you measure? Are you measuring the success of these programs by a reduction in the number of counties on the list, or are you measuring? I mean, how are you going to benchmark your success, and what are you going to do when the funding stops?
I might. I'll take a stab at Jason. Maybe back me up on what your measures of success are, or our measures of success are. So we are prepared for the funding to trail off, and basically not have the program anymore. We're prepared for that. I would like to not do that because, as I said, I think there's a great need out there, and the board is supportive of putting additional funding into our own funding into that effort. But we got to find a sustainable revenue source to keep it going for much longer, which I'm working on. I'm working on that front. Measures of success in terms of placements. Eric's getting a job in Nash. Others have taken other jobs. To me, that's a success. Is building that workforce. Success is also Anson County, who has had challenges with getting their audits in on time, and getting an email from their manager being elated that they're caught up and they are super excited that they've been able to do it and get their audit in. I think I worry that there's a public perception that there are counties out there or units of local government that are just wanting to not turn their audits in, or, just ignoring. And I can report to you all that's not the case that I experience. There are challenges that are facing that are inhibiting them from getting their audits in or their work done. Everybody wants to get their audit in. And so having them be so excited about getting their audit in, that's success. It's not, that may not be quantitative or as you may desire, but to me, that's a big success story. Quantitative?
Yeah, we do track quantitative.
See, Jason tracks all the numbers.
Yeah, NC Pro, they make us. No, Kevin mentioned our coordinators getting hired away. That is a metric that we track as a success, because it is a success story. That's the local government, hopefully the county government, telling us, this person's invaluable to us and we don't want to lose them. Like, we want to make them a permanent part of our staff. So that's one, but there are like 9 different key performance indicators that we submit. One certainly around helping those certain county governments get caught up on audit. We track like the time that we invest in training for our coordinators, assessments, peer reviews, some of those things that we talked about. And then there's some that are directly tied in with ARPA funding that counties have. So there are like 9 of them that we kind of officially track and then submit into the Pandemic Recovery Office.
Oh, sorry, follow up.
That's great, thank you.
Billy? William?
Paul. Thank you. Appreciate y'all coming out. I am interested in this. One topic that keeps me awake that you did not mention is silver tsunami retirements. I gotta believe there's a bunch of them that the counties are facing, because I'm facing them in state agencies. I mean, I'm somewhere between a quarter and a third of my workforce is going to retire in 3 to 7 years, and it terrifies me. And I wondered if it didn't sound that bad over there, but am I wrong?
I think it's definitely a concern from our standpoint, both in the manager's office as well as the CFO's office. We have collected some data on the retirements and the tenure of their careers in finance office. And yeah, it is concerning. We've got a plan for it. I wanted to talk about the Lead for NC program, which is UNC School of Government, and give some kudos to them. I think that they have a specific effort to take undergrads and point them towards finance, or take finance interested undergrads and point them towards county or city finance. And we're all for that. So again, that's a long play, but we got to get started somehow, somewhere. But yeah, that program is different from our program in the sense that the MPA is already, they've taken the extra step. They know that they want to get into this, so we're grabbing them and investing in them. But yes, we are concerned about it. Not sure quite what we do about it other than what we're trying to do now. But yeah, it's on our radar screen.
Thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Auditor Holmes.
Alder Holmes?
I just wanted to take a moment of personal privilege to commend Executive Director Kevin Leonard, who I had the opportunity to meet many moons ago as a county commissioner. I agree with the sentiment, and I'm glad that he said it on the record, that many municipalities and counties don't want to turn their audits in late. They don't want to, they're traditionally not being absent on purpose, but there are unique challenges, especially when we're talking about communities that have no full-time positions versus, for example, standards that Wake County can easily accomplish because we have over 4,000 employees. So I just wanted to take a moment to commend your leadership, to commend your work of the association under your leadership, Supervisor.
Thank you, Auditor.
Thank you, Alderman Holmes. Since it's my last meeting, and we have the treasurer-elect and auditor-elect who will be members of this board, I just wanted to extend a courtesy to see if they have any questions they'd like to ask us.
Thank you for the presentation. Admirable work you're doing. 14 on the unit assistance list and 18 more of the affected counties in the West. Catch your hands full. How do you allocate resources across those two, the folks that we know have had problems and the 18 that we know may have problems with the finance staff? How do you think about that?
So I'll take a stab at that question. On the 14, we're an association. We're not a governmental entity, right? So a lot.
How are you on the pension plan if you're not government? I'm sorry, it's just in the.
It
says in the law.
Should I but it is. That's the answer, right? That's what it says in the law. We also are an instrumentality of government. So I should stop while I'm ahead.
I love making you blush, so. Go ahead. You can answer the question.
This is going to be a problematic meeting for me. It's a mutual handshake with the counties on the UAL list. Let me back up and say, when this all came to be, there were discussions with the LGC and the General Assembly about where does such a function fit. And ultimately, people decided that the association fits well in the sense that we can enter into the county and with the mindset of compensation assistance and then embed an individual into the county. The LGC is doing amazing work in coaching as well. They also have the added responsibility as the regulatory arm, so that you got that potential conflict going on there. So it provides us more flexibility to go in there and be very helpful. But it is that mutual handshake in terms of, and this is where Jason is brilliant in terms of talking with the leaders of the county and saying, do you need some help? You might need some help. Can we help you? And working it that way. That's on the 14. And then.
Sorry, do all 14 accept your help?
I think that they would. The majority of the ones that we've approached in terms of, I would say, some of the most acute counties that need assistance, we go there first, right? So you have to prioritize with limited resources. And so that's the methodology in terms of trying to prioritize that. I'd love to get to all 14 tomorrow, right? And then get that number to 0. That's what I'd like to do. Out west, we're still, 2 months out from the event. We're trying to figure out the best angle into that space. They're quite covered up right now. I think at the moment, we are trying to figure out whether we have the capability and additional funding, perhaps from FEMA sources or other sources to embed somebody in each county, or at least do some type of regional type of working with the COG systems to provide technical expertise on a regional basis. But a one-on-one would be ideal, so it would alleviate pressure out of that for the county manager's office. That's not settled yet, but we're trying to figure that one out. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Just a real quick question. Thank you again for the presentation. Just curious, how, if in any way, you work with the School of Government at University of North Carolina. For example, if you're able to present what you have during orientation sessions where you county commissioners and managers come to the school for educational purposes and what kind of coordination you're getting, if any, from the school of government, particularly with respect to this program.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll talk about essentials. And Jason, you want to talk about our partnership with the school, especially on the cohort training and that sort of thing? Sure. Okay. So last night, a lot of new commissioners got sworn in and chairs elected. All 100 counties elected either the same or a new chair last night. After that, the association, in coordination with the School of Government, we offer Essentials of County Government, which is new commissioner school. And we start that, I think we had one in December. I think we moved it to January due to the hurricane because it was out west. Anyway, we have a series of those over the next several months. So all new commissioners, even veteran commissioners and their managers come in, and it's a 2-day session discussing, congratulations, you're a new commissioner. Here's what you can do, what you can't do, suggestions. It's a lot of information. But we establish ourselves, the association and the school, as resources of information that they can go to ask real specific questions or general questions. Now, on this program, and we introduce this program in that essentials meeting, so they understand that it's an offering that we have. And then, Jason, you want to talk a little bit further?
Sure. I would say in general, we have a fantastic relationship with the school and have had since the inception of the Institute of Government. In fact, they staffed the association before the association had a staff. So we have a longstanding, great relationship with the school. We coordinate with them on their educational opportunities. So we I feel like bring information to them when we feel like there's a gap in offerings that may not be out there. In terms of like this program, certainly with the American Rescue Plan Act funds, they have expertise. We have expertise. We try to make sure that we contribute to their office hours that they have and their offerings. And they the same. With the coordinators, when we have in-person trainings, which we try to do at least 10 times a year, we make sure that if there's something that we're presenting to our project coordinators that we feel like is useful to help them grow, and there's a staff member at the School of Government, we certainly issue an invite and make sure that that's part of kind of an extended team of folks that they start developing personal relationships with. And then, of course, as they move into county government, the school is there to serve them in that role too.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Auditor Holmes, one.
Alder Holmes, yes, ma'am.
Mr. Treasurer, it seems that we have completed, per the agenda, all of the official business. And unless there's something else, I'm happy to put forward a motion to adjourn.
You're what? Yeah, if you need to leave, that's fine, but we just have a couple more things. I just wanted to thank you all I couldn't hear, we've heard every other comment you've made, but that one was half sentences, half words. So I understand your desire to adjourn as quickly as possible. That's what I heard from that. All right. So
just in reading the agenda, it seems that that we have completed the items that are listed on the agenda.
and I'm chairing the meeting, so we'll adjourn when I call for a motion. Thank you. Thank you all for coming.
There's a motion on the table. I'm not sure that Robert's Rules of Order would allow you to disregard that motion.
If you don't mind, I'd like to finish my last meeting.
I'm happy to allow you to do that in acknowledgement that I withdraw the motion, but that the chair cannot disregard a motion.
All right, I'm not going to. Thank you for coming. Enjoyed working with you in the past, and thank you for your presentation. I will go around the horn to see if there's any board members who would like to add anything before we adjourn.
Mr. Kilbeck?
Yes, sir.
You recognizing me?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted, before we close, to thank you for your service, Mr. Treasurer. I've enjoyed working with you these 8 years. I wish you and your wife the best in whatever you decide to do besides go home and ride the motorcycle. But thank you for your service to state. Auditor Holmes, you've only been with us about a year, but thank you for your service to the state. Wish you the best, because I'm sure you'll land on your feet, but I wish you the best in your next endeavor.
Secretary Penny. Secretary Penny. I can't hear you.
Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Right. Since this is my last meeting, I've been going through these sort of farewell tours in the last few months after probably 37 years of state service and over 45 years of public service. It is with ambivalence that I look back reflectively on my career, but I would not want to leave without thanking the staff for your resilience and your strength and professionalism in all that you've done. There have probably been many times in which I have questioned many things in ways that were lawyer-like. I want to make sure you understand that was merely me doing my job and does not reflect my respect for all that you do. I want and all that you do for the people of North Carolina. North Carolina is a better state, a better run state, because of your inquiries and your efforts. I also want to thank all of my colleagues here on the commission for your work and your questions. Recognizing that we didn't always agree with each other, but I have always thought that the best ideas come from groups that are diverse, that come with diverse ideas, and that we try our best to work through our differences with that. And so with that, I sign off probably this phase of my public life, and I look forward to maybe seeing you at some other endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie did have a couple of housekeeping items regarding next year.
Just wanted to let members know of the schedule for next year. Our January meeting will be January 7th. We typically try to coordinate our meetings with Council of State for the convenience of the members who serve on both boards. They haven't finalized their schedule, so we're doing what we have in past years, which is publishing and announcing our schedule just for the first 3 months, so that local governments seeking to appear before the commission have some certainty as to dates. So we'll be meeting on January 7th, February 4th, and March 4th. Once we have the published Council of State calendar, we'll align with the rest of their calendar. But I've discussed this with Treasurer-elect and Treasurer Falwell, so we've established that as the first 3 months schedule for next year. So thank you.
Member Burns.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that there's a great deal of experience rolling off this commission, and I appreciate Mr. Treasurer, you welcoming me in not too long ago and integrating me into the workings of the commission. As usual, as it happened when I ran for commission, Wake County Commission, I found when I got there that the staff and the people doing the professional work of the government were underappreciated and under-trumpeted. And I think that's exactly, we do need to praise the staff that you built here for the local government commission. So you should be commended for the hiring that you did. Auditor Holmes, thank you for your service. We've worked together before, and I'm sure we'll work together again. Thank you for your time, and Secretary Penny, if you haven't already disconnected, thank you for your service. The state is much better for it. And I look forward to working with both of you gentlemen on this commission next month. Thank you very much, Mr. Treasurer.
Anybody else? Mr. Philback?
I just wanted to add my thanks to Secretary Penny. I did not realize this was your last meeting for sure, sir, but thank you, and it's been a pleasure to get to know you and wish you all the best.
So with that, I appreciate the bowl I've received here. Instead of keeper of the public purse, keeper of the public popcorn. But you can't eat it in this room because it's too noisy. Can't imagine giving somebody popcorn and not being able to eat it. But
That's not fair.
anyway, thank you. Thank you, staff. We ask a lot of the tough questions, and sometimes we say no when no needs to be said. And that's a rarity, and that's what the Local Government Commission is based on. I don't see other hands being up, but thank you for the opportunity to serve the Local Government Commission Board. I've learned obviously a great deal about local government as a result of being in this position, and as many have said, we look forward to the next round of whatever that happens to be. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. I think Auditor Holmes made that motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And I'd like that motion to be in honor of all the LGC staff and all those members who are retiring. Would you accept that as a substitute motion, Auditor Holmes?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And with that, that motion second being made, no further discussion, the clerk. All in favor, say aye.
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 Hereby adjourned. Thank you very much.